Philip Spooner, it's that time of year, the exciting days and weeks of the CPL. And of course, as head of media for the Falcons, you get to see things up front and center. And I'm sure that there are many who are envious of your perch, from which you can keep a pretty good eye on the Falcons. And the Falcons seem to be doing quite well this year. Welcome to Anything Cricket. Let's talk.
Thanks, Philip. Thanks for having me. Envious, I'm not too sure, but there's a lot of hard work and that's gone into it before and as we speak during the tournament. So it's a good position to have. I'm delighted actually to be part of the franchise again this year. We started from scratch last year, and we didn't really do too well last year in terms of all aspects. The crowds were small, well, smaller than we would have liked, I should say. They weren't small, and the team, didn't make the playoffs. But this year has been an all-out um, thrust to change most things and to get the things that weren't right last year right, and to do better the things that we did well last year. So so far so good. Top of the table, good performances at home in front of very, very big crowds. Ticket sales were overwhelming. The outreach was tremendous. The fans responded to just about everything we had planned for fan engagement and all the other activities. And from a Antigua and Barbuda Falcons point of view, one would have to say that we're quite happy with the state of play at the moment.
You had some close wins as well. In fact, all your victories were close. It means that you're doing well in terms of, crunch time. Your players are stepping up and performing.
But all of our defeats last year were close. So we lost close ones last year, and this year now we're able to win the tight ones. But it speaks to the level of commitment, the level of understanding that coach Paul Nixon has brought, ably supported by Security Ambrose, Wade and Cornwall. The coaching staff has been top tier, and the players have bought into all that they brought to the table, and they're doing quite well. Very well led by Imad Wazim, and our international players have put in some very good performances. And then, I mean, Kareem Agor coming from nowhere to be now the leading run scorer in the tournament, doing it all in front of his home crowd, family, friends, well wishers. So it's a good package to have as a team, and I think overall, you know, it looks good for this year's tournament.
Well, of course, the fact that you're doing well is great, and that would be greatly appreciated by the fans who turned up. But they would have made that decision to turn up before you did well, obviously. So, what has brought about this change whereby you've had this overwhelming support this year?
Well, we were challenged by our CEO Jeff Miller to get the stadium full. We had a meeting earlier this year with CPL. That was back in May the 14th to be precise, and we were tasked with the responsibility. How do we increase fan numbers? Last year we were at about 33% capacity, and that just was not going to cut it this year. So we had to go there and do all of our strategizing, come up with creative ways of getting fans first excited about about the potential of what is really good, of what is a really good team, and then to get into the streets, into the communities, into the villages, into the parishes, basically mobilize the troops and get them to come out and be that that famous 12th man which you saw um in the matches. So we really did hit the streets. We had a lot of engagement activities. Thanks to the media in Antigua as well. They partnered with us in a lot of cases, and we had a good team. We had a really good team from a marketing and communications point of view that really drove all the initiatives and really, went out there in the streets and really made it happen. The promotional aspects were very good. I would say we utilize our budgets really, really cleverly, and we were able to get the fans really buying into what it meant to be part of the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. And it really did help that you have legends of the nature of Sir Curtly Ambrose, Sir Richie Richardson, Sir Andy Roberts, and the great man himself, Sir Viv Richards, as part of a lot of what we did. And then also we had special invited guests, Johan Blake, the second fastest man who's ever lived, and he enjoys his cricket. He's a very good friend of Saviv, and we were able to build some good partnerships surrounded that relationship. So I think we it was we built from the ground up. We went into the communities. We partnered with the necessary agencies, the Antigua Cricket Association, Antigua Tourism, schools, governments, and we had a full-on, all-out packaging to ensure that we got those grounds full. And we knew that we were onto something big when we had the washout against St. Lucia, and the fans stayed to the end. They all stayed till 10-16 when unfortunately it was announced that that game wouldn't play. But imagine 4,000 people hanging around just to hear the game is washed out. So we knew that from that point the team had done what had done enough to entice the fans to want to come back. And then after that, it just kept building and building and building. And then obviously the Guyana game, which we lost, but the crowd is the biggest crowd ever cricket match in Antigua, we were told. And the numbers support that. The ticketing numbers and the attendance figures support that. So I think by and large, CPL was a winner in Antigua. And as you can see, going forward, the other venues are full. And they will be, they will get bigger and bigger as the tournament reaches Trinidad and Guyana, venues with greater capacity and venues where teams have done well in the past, and the fans want to come out and see more and more and more.
Well, you've outlined a template really for building a fan base. If you look at it that way. But in terms of numbers, though, you said you had 33% capacity, not 33% last year of the capacity. So translate to numbers for this year.
Yeah, well, we had maximum capacity for the game against Guyana, which is 13,000 or so. The thing with Antigua that's interesting is a lot of people stand in the stands. So if you look on TV, you will see a lot of empty seats, but the people are actually there, if that makes sense. Because of the grounds and the way the ground is set up, people rather stand and watch. Which is I guess is something that you can't really do in Barbados, for example, because there's no space to stand and see. But in Antigua, there's a lot of space that you can stand and see. So the tickets were actually purchased for the seats, but the people rather stand and congregate among themselves, I guess, and talk and have dialogue and banter about the present situation of the game. So that's a very interesting phenomenon, actually, about cricket in Antigua. You kind of see it in Dominica as well, where as the sun go down, they stand in a line behind the main pole and block the sun, the afternoon sun, but they're actually in attendance. So it's a bit of a phenomenon. And so you can look at I mean, 200% increase in fan engagement, 300% growth in attendance, and ticket revenue up by 400%, and a 500% increase in online and social media presence. I mean, this year, the social media, what do you call it, it blew up really, with the presence of Shakib Al Hassan, the Bangladeshi legend. His performance of getting 500 wickets on the Sunday was some. I mean, the numbers just went skyward whenever Shakib did anything, and obviously he had a remarkable player of the match performance. So his presence alone has driven up the numbers basically out of this world, and so he's a driving force in the team. And you mentioned earlier about the template of fan engagement, and this is nothing new. Don't I don't want anyone to believe that we've reinvented a wheel. This is obviously what I would have pioneered during the 2018 Women's T20 World Cup in the Caribbean, where we have very big crowds for the West Indies matches. And similarly, when I worked as the global media manager for ICC T20 World Cup in the Caribbean and USA in 2024 with the Trophy Tour, how we were able to get in on the street, in and among the fans, in and among spectators, drive traffic, drive presence, drive um, initiatives, and have people feel part of the whole event and part of the whole process, and have them, invest the time, the energy, and eventually invest their money in wanting to come and see the games being played. So it's nothing new, but it was really magical to see how in the second season, the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons were able to sell out the venue for matches, and that is credit to everyone involved.
Nothing new, but sometimes you get the impression when you watch cricket, I'm talking cricket generally, in this part of the world, um, sometimes there's a feeling of despair in terms of the lack of crowd participation, crowd involvement, crowd presence. Um, so what are the implications of this in terms of the wider interest in cricket in all formats?
Well, I mean, there's tremendous interest in cricket in the West Indies. The performances might not be where we want the team to be, but there's tremendous interest in cricket in the West Indies. It's just how do you reach the fans? How do players engage with their fans and their supporters? How do you produce a product, a brand, or a event that makes people want to be part of it? It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of honest, hard decision making. But the audience is there waiting for you to give them a reason to come and to support. Several things go into it, but one of the things that we found in Antigua that was a challenge but turned out to be a blessing was the cricket came just after Antigua Carnival and just before back to school. So we were thinking maybe that's a time when people were going to hold tight to their money they would have spent, in the enjoyment in the carnival, and they would be holding back some for back to school. But we found that we created a product and we had several initiatives in place that encouraged them to be part of it. It's not a matter of you're throwing money into a hole by buying a ticket, but there is something tangible, valuable, and lasting to be part of supporting the Antigua and Barbuda franchise. And I mean, if I gotta say when, but it's if the team goes on to win the trophy, the people will feel very much invested, and the fans will feel very much invested and very much part of this. And there's no secret that the presence of fans screaming, shouting, and hollering players' names and team names does help. And the players said that themselves. They said the fans made them feel appreciated, and it drove them in tight situations to dig deeper and do better. So it's doable, it's workable, and it's practical. And it's how it's done. And but I continue to say that there's a huge amount of fans in the West Indies who want a reason to be a West Indies fan, and you got to just give them that reason, make it tangible, practical, realistic, honest, and they will come out and support.
Your vision for the Falcons and even for the CPL might seem a strange question given the success that you've outlined, but the Philip Spooner I know is not going to ever get to a point of total contentment and just to sit back and say, okay, well, we've arrived. So, where can this all take the Falcons and by extension the CPL?
Well, if you look at the CPL, the TKR of Trinidad and Tobago and the Amazon Warriors of Guyana are their own brands. I mean, they're rival any not rival, they've surpassed any regional territorial board in terms of earnings, in terms of brand, in terms of visibility, in terms of fan base. I mean, when people in Guyana are going to line up at 4 o'clock in the morning to buy a ticket in July for a game that's going to be played in September, well, that tells you everything. And when people in Trinidad are going to drive in evening traffic from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock to get to Brian Lara Stadium to watch TKR play the arch rivals Guyana Amazon Warriors, that tells you everything. So these two teams, for want of a better word, have developed into brands. TKR have the blessing of the Calcutta Knight Riders family franchise, so they look after themselves quite well. Guyana Amazon Warriors, grown from scratch, years and years of hurt from reaching the finals or getting close and losing, and then winning one year. You know how that goes in Guyana, how it's developed. So they've developed their own brand identity, the teams have their own character, and they drive the product, and they really have the fans behind it. I mean, flags, banners, shirts, you name it. It's gonna be seen at Brian Lara Cricket Academy, and it's gonna be seen at the Providence Stadium. So these are separate brands alone. So you've got West Indies cricket team, you've got regional territorial boards, teams, Barbados Pride, for example, and Trinidad Red Force. And then you now have separate brands in TKR and Amazon Warriors. These are stand-up brands, and these stand alone. They have their own financial model and their own fan base, and they're doing extremely well. So that's the vision for Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. How can we emerge further, as a real brand in West Indies cricket? I mean, Antigua is the home of party cricket, and CPL brands itself as the biggest party in sport. It all started, the party concept in Antigua cricket started with Gravy, Chicky, and Mayfield in the 80s, and it has grown into what it is today. Everybody know at cricket everywhere in the world wants to have a party stand because of what they started in Antigua, for example, and what Chris Daring developed further in the Mount in Jamaica. So these are brands, and these have emerged significantly as players in the regional cricket market. And it was interesting that recently when Cricket West Indies held its discussion on how should you re-energize, re-engage, and repackage basically West Indies cricket, they never invited anyone from TKR or Amazon Warriors, which to me was a little bit of a interesting omission because these brands have really demonstrated by and large what can be achieved in a relatively short space of time. But that's another story for another day. But in Antigua, we want to be a brand. We want to be a cricket brand with identity, with vision, with being able to capture the audience and being able to have fans, buy into everything that we do. We have some of the greatest cricketers on the island to Viv, probably some would say the greatest cricketers ever lived, or at least up there in the top five. So Viv is a huge icon of the game and someone that we've worked closely with in the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. So, we see ourselves as not yet in the league of TKR or Amazon Warriors, but we're driving towards that. And we know that success as a team, winning matches, winning titles has a lot to do with that as well. So we're planning towards that to move in that direction. And in a year or two where you can sell out the stadium in a few matches, I think you've done well.
Just before you go, the fact that clearly a lot to absorb and a lot to learn, but something else that has jumped out at me too, the, the fact that so often in this part of the world we tend to focus on age, and what the CPL is showing, especially aside like the Warriors, is that it's really about performance. And there were critics of the fact that Guyana continued with Tahir as the captain at 45 years old. But I'm hoping that maybe this is a lesson that can be learned throughout the region. That is really about performance and not just age.
Well, what do fans want? What do the fans want to see? The fans want to come and see passion. They want to see effort. They want to see desire. They want to see, digging deep. They want to see their team flying high. They want a captain who's going to take a wicket and run all the way towards the boundary, screaming, shouting. We've done this, and Tahir brings that. And he's 46, but he's still fit and able to get it on the field and put in performances. And do we need more of that in regional 50 over cricket and 40 cricket? I say yes. We need people who are going to dig deep and go the extra mile and carry a team on his back when the chips are down, and then when the team is ahead, spin a web around everybody else and bowl them out. Look at Jason Holder. Jason Holder, I won't say he's in the evening of his career, but he definitely has made a switch from Barbados to St. Kitts to go there and do something different and have an impact. And he definitely has had an impact this season. From a team point of view, it hasn't gone his way, but my God, Jason has had a season to be proud of. And he's not, in his mid 20s, he's approaching his mid 30s. And here's a true tried and proven professional and a player with big international numbers who's gone and done something different somewhere else and has proven that you can rebuild and you can restart at age 34. So, what more do we want? Do you want teenagers who are not going to entice the fans and all that? Or do you want a team made up of a mixture of young, old, and in between who are going to go out there and give 1,000% and is going to, have fans who's running around screaming, shouting their names, wanting their jersey? Look at Pollard, for example. Pollard has had two monster innings so far in the tournament. I mean, nobody hits the ball further than Pollard. And the TKR fans, everybody wants a Pollard shirt. Everybody wants to be Mr. 55. So, I mean, we got to grow the game and we have to develop young talent. And there's a role for that in West Indies cricket, and there's a developmental pipeline from grassroots to international level. But when it comes to the big league where people are invested, they're going to pay their money, they're going to want to come and see their team win. Well, if the guy is 46 and is doing that, it's a no-brainer.
And before you go, the Breakout League, its impact on the tournament so far.
Well, I am a strong supporter of the breakout. When I sat in another capacity at Cricket West Indies and it was being discussed back then, I gave it a strong, strong support. Obviously, at the time, we were developing templates around the marketing and PR for it. So I think it's a necessary developmental pathway aspect. And I mean, look at Kareem Agor, for example. He was the leeward captain in the breakout. They did pretty well. And now he's come to the CPL and he's a leading run scorer. He scored three half centuries, two of them match winning for Antigua Falcons. So, there you go. Navin Bedesi from St. Kitts Nevis Patriots, the leg spinner who bats a bit. If West Indies are looking for a wrist spinner to take to the next World Cup in Sri Lanka next year, he's obviously put his name in the hat. So the breakout has done its part. It's demonstrated that the young talent does exist, but need to be groomed, need to be looked after, need to be catered for. And like as I said, Gore and Bedesi are two of the early examples of what's possible for completely unknowns, so quote unquote, to come and do well in the breakout, come and get on the biggest stage and also look the part. Keon Gaston from the Windwards, he had a pretty decent start as well. And you're seeing the talent emerge, but they can't be just thrown in wildly on their own. You still need the Tahirs, the Jason Holders, the Kyron Pollards, to be around them to help Shakib Al Hassan to help out. And it's a good blend. But the CPL has demonstrated that it's a product that the fans love. They're engaged, they're excited, and they can't get enough of it. And with two more teams coming next year, it widens the fan base. One of them will be in Jamaica, the largest population in the region, the one market that's been starved for cricket for a while that looks like they're ready to come back into the mainstream of cricket and really be part of it. So expect a bigger CPL, I believe, in 2026. And very importantly, the final is in Bridgetown, Barbados at Kensington Oval. So for Barbadians, there will be a lot to look forward to this year, of course, when the matches come, and a probably even bigger year next year when Carry Festival would have warmed the hearts of everybody, and then Cricket Carnival comes a call in 12 months.
Philip Spooner, head of media at the Falcons. The best to you and to the Falcons for the rest of the season.
Thanks very much, and look forward to Kensington in a few weeks, where should be an interesting battle.
Of course.
Yeah.